Welcome back to the F1 Sim Racing World Championship 2025. This is event 1 and round 1 is done and dusted. After 7 years wait, we went racing back in Melbourne and boy, it did not disappoint. Ismail Fassi, the Williams driver, going from pole to victory, his maiden win, and Williams' maiden win in the competition after 7 years. It had a bit of everything. Today we go racing in China and Bahrain, but let's kickstart the show with a recap of what happened yesterday.
Oh, look at that shot.
Yeah, Otis Lawrence is loving life out there at the moment.
That's been one of the stories of the session so far. Otis Lawrence currently working the wheel.
Now it's my first season where I'm in the regulation to be old enough to be in the series, and it's great to start like this. It's a good confidence boost, and we'll see what happens in the race.
I just got my first ever pole in sim racing, so yeah, very happy, and hopefully we can convert it to a win tonight. But obviously everything could happen. This is a lot of talented people in here, so...
And there's another opportunity. Will he get there? He's to the inside. He's going through. The rookie making waves. In qualifying was Lawrence. The rookie making waves in the race is Pookie. With fresher tyres, with an opportunity.
Do you remember when we used to commentate, we thought, 2 laps of action, that's an absolute thriller. What is going on this year?
It was a chaotic race behind me. For me, I just had to manage the people behind me and the gap in front with Danny Beresney. I basically did that without much trouble, as it's very difficult to overtake here in Australia. Our top speed was very, very high.
Fassi's going to have a great opportunity. This could be it. Fassi around the outside!
Fassi goes around the outside!
I was pretty much sure I was going to overtake him, as DRS is very powerful. I was on younger tires as well. Yeah, I just closed that gap using a little bit of ERS and pushing the tires at their limit, and yeah, made it happen.
Beresney's chances of victory fade at the very end, and it's Lawrence who's going to be on the podium on debut. Can you believe what we've just seen at the end?
The confidence has gone very far up. I wasn't expecting this pole and win on the same day, so yeah, very happy.
And the man who started on pole is going to win it, but that won't tell you the story. What a performance for Ismail Fassi, who crosses the line. Fassi wins the opening race of the year, and Williams have something to smile about at last. Look at the emotion. That is absolutely extraordinary. One of the best races we have ever seen.
Well, you see what it means to the Williams team and to Ismail Fassi. What a beautiful day. And I welcome back two beautiful guests to the show,
Wow.
Alex Jakes and Matt Gallagher. I thought we'd start with a nice positive vibe. Have you reflected on yesterday? Have you recovered? Are you ready to go for day 2?
I don't feel like we've been off air. We're straight back to it once again. Not that I'm complaining, mind you. What a start to the season we had there. You know, the racing might not be real, but the emotion certainly was. And it was really, really, really special to see that out there. Great starts of the year, and 2 occasions again today for more action.
Yeah, can't wait to get into it. Round 2 and round 3, China and Bahrain. Matt, you said 2 laps of action. Those days are gone. We're hoping for more of the same. It was just spectacular.
It was. What a day. And I completely echo your thoughts, Alex. It doesn't feel like we've really been off air. We're back again for 2 more races today. But yeah, it was scintillating. I don't think anyone really expected just that much action. You'd think maybe they'd be a bit cagey into the first round. Bit of nerves. The rookies, maybe they don't. Yeah, we just had everything in one race. I hope it will continue. I hope we haven't jinxed it and we go a little bit slower today. But I genuinely think that we've got 2 amazing events coming up later on.
And Ismail Fassi kept it interesting because even before in quali we talked about you're going to pole to victory. We see it so much in F1 sim racing, but he saved it right until the last lap, and that just made it extra special to see that attack from him.
Yeah, he played his tactics to perfection, said to us on this very desk that he was confident on that last lap of getting the win. But confidence is one thing and delivering is another, especially when it's for your maiden win as well, and you know what it would mean to the entire team. You spoke about the difficult second half of the season you had last year. When you've been out of the points, when you need a response, when suddenly you've got that win within your grasp, if he'd not executed, if he'd been done for second place, it can slip through your fingers really, really quickly. So he did brilliantly to execute the tactics as he expected on that last lap.
Well, he'll be top of the driver's standings, of course, and then with an extra point from having pole as well. You get a point for that this season as well. And there you have it. Look at the two Mercedes drivers right below Ismail as well, and some old guard up there. And in 5th spot at the moment, the rookie Otis Lawrence. Incredible from him, Matt, stepping in his debut season and showing what he's all about. And he will have learnt from yesterday a bit more racecraft and how chaotic the F1 sim racing is.
Well, it's funny, we look at 5th place, and I'm sure Otis Lawrence probably would have taken that coming into the season.
Yeah.
But you reflect on maybe 4 corners from the end, and Lawrence was on for a podium.
Yeah.
So he lost a couple of positions at the end. I'm sure, again, as you say, learning those final few laps, racecraft in particular, it'll be an important experience for him. But yeah, what a great start. He was just oozing confidence, especially in qualifying. He's not afraid of the cameras. He actually quite enjoys it by the looks of things. And that's a really important thing. You have to enjoy this experience to get the most out of yourself.
Haas, Scuderia Ferrari, which is a shock after. I know it's only one race, so I take that on board. But and Alpine as well. All teams are hoping to just send something, get a bit of confidence from that first race. But quite a shock there. Scuderia Ferrari, no points after the first race.
Yeah, that's the big shock. That's the big shock for sure. They came in as one of the favourites. I think Red Bull, again, one of the favourites. And we didn't speak about Mercedes much in the broadcast yesterday. And look at them. They're at the top of the constructors. So it just shows the unpredictability that we saw in Australia. I fully expect Ferrari to bounce back. We heard some great comms from them. Barry trying to pick up his teammate Nicholas. And they've got a great camaraderie, the two of those. And I fully expect that to be an anomaly in what will, hopefully for them, be a great season.
An outlier maybe. Okay, let's have a look at that schedule for today. For you can start putting your diaries, setting it up. 12:15 we will start the quali. Then at 3:15 we'll be back for the race, and then we head over to Bahrain. Just a short trip on the flight over to Bahrain for more quali and more race. And I love that. So it's action-packed day for Wednesday, and then of course tomorrow we'll be going to Jeddah. But out of these two races, I mean, in terms of that spiciness or quali, how important? We thought quali was going to be so important for Melbourne, going racing there, and that got thrown out the window. Is it the same for China and Bahrain?
It did get thrown out of the window, but I'd say that, you know, that it was a real roll of the dice, that strategy that enabled both Mercedes to compete as a pincer movement. Of course, the first time that you do that, you alert everyone to the possibility. So everyone's going to be looking at a whole range of issues. I think that puts more of a premium on qualifying again, because I can't see the rest of the field getting caught out in the same way that they were yesterday.
Yeah. Well, look, let's look at the track for China with Jarno Opmeer talking us through it.
So a lap around Shanghai in China. Quite a tricky last corner to start off with. You want to carry a lot of speed onto your lap. A bit of an awkward line to start your lap. And then into turn 1, you want to carry a lot of minimum speed in turn 1. At the same time, not run too much distance. It's a very long right-hander and have to take a little bit care of your tire because the surface temps are going to spike up in real life but also in the game. So have to keep that in mind. Because turn number 2 is very low speed, so lots of time can be gained through there. And then we're gonna head into sector 2 already. Hairpin coming up, big braking zone with a very long exit actually, which goes through a flat out left-hander. That's fairly easy, but you have to set up the right-hander straight away afterwards, which leads into another long left-hander, double left-hander actually. So yeah, a lot of corners after corners after corners, which means racing line is going to be crucial. Minimum speed is going to be crucial, but exit speed out of that final left-hander is going to be crucial as well. Then we head into one of the most difficult corners on the F1 calendar, the long left-right-hander. Left-hander is very short, but then that right-hander is incredibly long. Don't want to run a lot of distance, but at the same time the exit is super long as well. So you want to carry the speed all the way down the straight for a good overtaking opportunity into the hairpin. Very, very hard braking zone. Probably one of the hardest braking zones on the calendar, if not the hardest. Can make some good dive bombs into that hairpin, but you have to be careful to not overshoot it, of course. Through the hairpin you go, lots of time to be found there, of course, because it's so low speed, one braking zone. We're gonna go into the final corner on the track and a very, very difficult corner on the F1 game. Use Sochi's curb on the inside. Kind of wanna put your tire just over that, but if you do it slightly too much, you bottom out and you get launched towards the moon. So lots of qualifying laps are going to be ruined through the final corner. Now we're just going to have to wait and see who will ruin their qualifying lap around the last corner in Shanghai.
Really fascinating insight there from the Red Bull boys. But let's turn our attention to a different team. Williams at the moment sitting second in the championship after that incredible performance from Ismail Fassi yesterday. Ben Hawkins, the team principal, welcome. How are we feeling?
Yeah, really good. Thank you, Claire. Obviously, yesterday was everything we could have hoped for, but it was just race one and there's still a long season ahead. So it's reset now and ready to go again.
2 races today. Is there a race that you think that you could excel in a little bit more? Because I was speaking to Ismail yesterday. He even said he was quite surprised at the performance.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't pick a particular race today. I mean, you know me now, you're getting to know me, and I'd tell you the truth if there was something we weren't confident about, but we are confident in both of the races coming up today. I think there's always a chance you could see a repeat, but it's just such a strong grid and anything could happen, but we are confident and we think we've done everything that we could do. And it wasn't Ismail's strongest yesterday, so that sets us up for a good season and hopefully a good day today.
And obviously it's not just the Ismail show. There are other drivers you've got, of course, and a really strong lineup. 3 really strong drivers. Which one could be used?
Yeah, so I think for Alvaro yesterday, that was as good as a win. Quali didn't go the way that we wanted it to. Won't go into the minute details now, but Alvaro to fight back from where he was to pick up points is as good as a win for us. And I think Ruben's going to bring some real strong performance at Bahrain, and we're very, very happy with what we've got. It's the first time for us really going for this model. We don't have a first driver, second driver, third driver. We've got 3 incredible talents, and you'll see them used interchangeably throughout the season.
And the momentum is with you at the moment. You're second in the championship, just behind Mercedes.
Yeah, 100%. And the biggest thing for us is culture and environment. I know a lot of people joke around the all-Spanish roster. That just happened that way. We recruit based on the values that we see. And these guys, I don't think anything could rock them. We celebrated, if you want to call it celebrating, last night. It was literally a well done to everybody, and it's reset again. I know it sounds heartless and cold, but it's elite sport. You don't ride the highs too high, so then you won't feel the lows too low. So yeah, we're a really stable group, and watch this space.
Well, good luck. Thank you for talking to us.
Yeah, thank you.
Good morning to both Ben Hawkins there and Claire Cottingham. All red today. She has essentially said it's Scuderia Ferrari again today for her. Great to have Claire getting that insight from the guys talking there. Ruben Pedreno, the Spanish culture. He'll be stepping in for Bahrain. But Ismail Fassi even sending a few kisses to everyone who's watching this morning. Matt, what do you make of the Williams team in general?
Well, look, they've taken this very seriously for a few years. Like back at their HQ, which is part of the Formula One team, they have an amazing sort of sim suite there that I've had the pleasure of going in, and it's brilliant. So they've taken this seriously for a while, and they've deserved to get this victory, these accolades that hopefully they will continue to get throughout this season. But Fassi, we knew the potential was there. It was just he needed to deliver it, and that's exactly what he did in qualifying, and being able to then convert that into a victory. As much as you said in commentary, Alex, it didn't tell the full story, a pole to to a victory, because it was not lights to flag. But yeah, they've got a great team. Clearly, a lot of sort of close-knit relationships there as well, and that will give dividends by the end of the season. Yeah,
Ruben Pedreno moving across from Alpine, adding to that culture. I want to talk about the points system, just to remind everybody as well. That pole position that Fassi had yesterday coming into it, and then the fastest lap was awarded to the man who went from P11 to P4. Not the greatest quali from Jarno Opmeer. We heard from him in terms of that track layout and potentially avoiding going to the moon at some point. Top drive from him. He'll need to do better in quali, but great stuff from Jarno, and it was brilliant to see his racecraft yesterday.
Yeah, he really came alive in the latter stages, but he will want to stop giving himself a mountain to climb. That's his main aim. If he can post it inside the top 10, he knows he's got the race pace. He's always had the race pace, and that's his aim coming up in the next couple of minutes.
Alex, Jakes, Matt Gallagher, cannot wait for this. I'll hand it over to you as we go racing in Shanghai.
Thank you very much, Tom Deacon. It's Shanghai International Circuit. We continue what has been so far an epic start to F1 sim racing in 2025. That is the long corner that sends you on to the longest straight of the season. 5.4 kilometres, 3.3 miles, 16 turns. Plenty for the driver to deal with, Matt Gallagher.
Oh, I absolutely love this track, Alex. I really do. It's one of the unsung heroes of the F1 calendar, in my opinion. And I'm really hoping that F1 Sim Racing can deliver even half of a race that we saw yesterday will still be an absolute worldie. So there is the Ferrari esports team. And then we take a look at McLaren. They are absolutely the team that need to bounce back after yesterday. Of course, Alfie Butcher very disappointed with his qualifying. He had a pretty awesome race, it has to be said, but of course was carrying that penalty. And then Lucas, again, he came through on that hard to medium strategy and was flying through at the end with the likes of Jarno Otmir as well. But he's going to need a little bit more if he wants to win the championship for a second time. And of course, Alfie Butcher just needs to build a bit of confidence, I think, in this new McLaren Shadow team. Of course, he said that he wasn't feeling the pressure, but you got to a little bit. You know, the likes of representing McLaren, it's not an easy feat at all.
No, it really isn't. A chance for a reset for everyone. So 2 rounds in the day as we move from Shanghai, then on to Bahrain. Bahrain always seems to be ever present on our calendar. Shanghai, it's come, it's gone. It's provided some incredible races through the years. A little bit of a wet-dry challenge, I remember, in yesteryear with Jarno Otmir. So big opportunity if you had a good race yesterday to continue that momentum. A real opportunity to turn the page, certainly for the McLaren boys that you were talking about. Also Ferrari as well will not want another tricky day, another tricky round, because then begins to be a bit of a narrative taking hold.
Yeah, I fully expect Ferrari to bounce back in this, today, the 2 races in particular, just purely, they have the speed, they have everything. It just sometimes doesn't go your way, and that's exactly what happened. Of course, Longue losing car control in the last couple of corners, getting a penalty for that, which I think was warranted. But as you say, Control, Alt, Delete, Reset, let's go again, as we now, as you can see, enter Q1. Not expecting the most ferocious 5 minutes or so at the start of this session. Maybe a few intermediate runners, of course. They go out there just to make sure that their equipment is working, to make sure that everything is dialed in to their liking, and then we will get underway.
It's a little bit of an installation lap, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like we'd see in practice, Formula One, in the real thing.
Just not on intermediates usually in the real thing.
Yeah, just not on the intermediate tyre. So drivers will pop out to make sure that everything is working, system check. They have been, preparing. The nice thing about being here and seeing the drivers go through the process, you're seeing what their day looks like so far. They're getting comfortable behind the wheel. Those opening day nerves, they will have dissipated. They go. Now we're down to business. So some of them trying to respond to a tough day yesterday, some of them trying to get that story going. Mercedes, one of the great stories of yesterday. Superb teamwork across the board, brilliant strategy, a return to form for Danny Berezne, and a stunning debut for Pookie.
Absolutely. I think Mercedes showed that you don't necessarily have to be the favourites in order to deliver in this series. The fact that they got their strategy so right, that the drivers are so close in pace. If you can just position yourself in that train in a good way, like Danny Berezne. He said after the race he wasn't that disappointed in not winning because he kind of accepted that he wasn't going to. He'd gone a little bit early on those hard tyres at the once he'd pitted, but he secured a podium position that was looking unlikely after qualifying, where he was P8. So Mercedes pulled a blinder. I'm sure the other teams have perhaps woken up a little bit to the aggressiveness in some of the stretches that can be played out during this season. And we have some cars out on track, as you can see, which is always great. Gets the blood flowing, gets the nerves tingling a little bit. And it's great to be back once again. We said, it feels like we haven't been on air. We were literally on air a few hours ago, it feels like. It probably feels the same for the drivers. It feels, they're starting to get a little bit more comfy now. Of course, they're not in their own setups, their own headquarters. They're here, and it's going to take a little bit of time to adjust. And I think today will be a big turning point, perhaps, for some teams.
Looking at the cars out there on track, and we've got 15 minutes and 30 seconds to go. Leisurely start to this one as the drivers just check everything out there. Then we'll get our push laps. The track will be at its best at the end of the session. Drivers cool as you like with their teams with the run plans here. So it will all be about this stage just learning what you've got. Jarno Otmir, former champion, a winner around here in the past.
One of the best drives I think we've ever seen in F1 sim racing, where it was a last to first challenge. Of course, the wet weather helped that. But Jarno, it was a ridiculously incredible. Like, it was just one of those drives that you go, did that really happen? Doing a last to first in a league race or something is one thing, but doing it against the 20 best drivers in the world, or the other 19, is just something that we've not seen before. So I'm sure that will, of course, give Jarno some confidence. But for me, if Jarno can just qualify in the top 5, that's all he needs. But the thing is, it's much easier said than done because everyone is so close. But if Jarno can do that, he has to be one of the favourites for the race.
I completely echo what you've said there, Matt. It's just, do you think drivers can get into the situation where it almost becomes like, you know, you get the yips in golf, don't you? Everyone starts talking about your putting. And then if everyone starts talking about your qualifying, I spoke to Mark Webber about this once. He went through a season where he just could not get the starts right. And then if everyone starts talking about your starts, it only adds pressure. Look at Lando Norris last year. Similar thing. Everyone talks about the opening laps and then it's a thing. Difficult at any level in any championship to dial out the stated weakness that you have. And given that he's such a strong driver, that's about the only gap that there is in an incredible performance behind the wheel that he's shown us time and time again in sim racing.
And also, he's a massive personality, as Jarno. He's done incredible for the Formula One game, for Formula One in general, with his content creation and the huge fan base that he has behind him. But that is also pressure. You know, they like to take the mickey out of him sometimes as well, and they will remind him of his qualifying and things like that. So there is that added pressure for sure. But Jarno, as we've seen in the races, he doesn't necessarily feel that there, and he delivers excellently. Went from 11th to 4th yesterday.
Yeah, brilliant. Brilliant performance in a day where it was easy to see points slip through your fingers. Who would have thought that he would have been the lead Red Bull across the line? I don't think you would have got great odds on that at the start, showing all of his champion class. We're on board with Gal there as he gets up to speed in the championship, part of an all-rookie lineup at Haas for this event, and Haas like this tactic of chucking new talent in. Worked really well for them last year with Butcher, who has moved his way to McLaren. You look at some of the team personnel setup that we've got here in the arena. We've got the drivers on the rigs, we've got their engineering setup close to them as well, and for the rookies, a day to have got used to it. And then we, having completed our install laps, now get to the stage with 12 minutes to go, where we'll stop sounding like a podcast and we'll start sounding like a commentary, because the action is about to come your way. We're about to see drivers actually go out there and set representative tyres, and we look forward to seeing what we get out there. A dry track once again, a little bit of speculation. We've been talking about the conditions that we've previously had around Shanghai International, but it's dry once again. I think always great news for the rookies there, because you're trying to carry in everything that you've learned coming into this year. You do not perhaps want scrambled performance at this stage. Maybe later in the year if you're chasing a result, if you've not quite got the points finishes that you were looking for, but it will be interesting to see what we get later on. Around a track where there are so many different characteristics that you have to balance behind the wheel.
Absolutely. You speak of the weather. I've just opened up our lovely weather app that we have. A lot of information to go with this year, which is very appreciated. 3% chance of rain. So never say never, Alex. But I don't think it's going to rain in this session. Although as we go through, the increase of the probability does go up. Plus 30 minutes, it says 16%. So never.
Might have spoken too soon.
Yeah, there you go. But for now, there's no rush, of course, and I prefer a dry qualifying anyway. It's great to see them go just to the full limit of what they can do. And sometimes wet weather qualifying, you can have the best conditions at the start, and then it is a 15-minute podcast as we sit there and wait for the next session. So, yeah, we are getting ready for, well, it is already Q1, but the actual start of Q1. But look, if for F1 sim racing fans out there, they know this happens, that Jarno's stretching, he's having a good old chill. Freddie's there, just having a little wiggle of the wheel, just trying to keep somewhat still concentrated, as there's Danny Beresnay, who'll be very, very happy after yesterday, and he'll be exuding confidence coming into today.
Yeah, whole team will, after they got it right. They might not have won the race, but they did everything but, didn't they? Called it to perfection, upgraded their slots on the grid, taking that podium, and there is our championship leader after the one race. Ready He's been on camera so much, we're catching him in nearly every moment of his life. Just clearing his throat before he gets back behind the wheel and tries to keep the story going. Williams winners at last in F1 sim racing after yesterday's performance. And with 26 points on the board, 25 for the win and 1 for pole position. And there is one, unlike the Formula 1 World Championship that begins in Australia later in the year. There is 1 point for pole position. Given how close it's been, last year's title separated by 6 points. Every single point out there, absolutely vital. That is the sound of a car on the circuit.
I'll tell you what, we're having a look at Barry Brumman. Let's have a listen in to what they've been chatting about.
Is it a possibility that maybe start of Q3 is dry?
No, it doesn't. Well, the weather's actually changing as we're looking at it, so we're going to have to confirm with you at the start of Q2. So for now, let's just treat it as a normal quali. Yeah, we'll deal with it when we get there.
Let's just focus on Q1.
Yeah, it's dry Q1. That's all that matters.
The Alex Jakes jinx is kicking in, ladies and gentlemen.
Curse is real. Listen, at this stage, you just embrace it. Enjoy the monsoon conditions of later on. Entire field of drivers behind me. Sorry about that.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Well, there we are. I've learned a couple of things today. Number one, that we've got a weather page on our iPads, and that you can never count out anything.
Don't trust the blue skies.
In the sim racing championship that we've got for this year. Barry Borman then giving us a little bit of hint that what might be to come. Either way, Q1 dry conditions, and the drivers will be at the full limits of the cars. And then it could be an entirely different skill set for later on. Through the heat haze they go, warming tyres, warming brakes, getting into the temperature window that they need to. This is such an important corner. The hairpin, it is defining around this racetrack, and then a breather before another defining corner, because you've got to take great speed into turn 16, but it's risk and reward through there, because that is the key part of the circuit where you can invalidate your lap.
Exactly. You know, Jarno Opmeer said that you may well be sent to the moon as well. It seems like that's a recurring theme, because I think Brendan said that about Australia as well. But yeah, you could be on such a great lap and then invalidate on the final corner, which will then invalidate your next lap as well. Of course, you wouldn't go for 2 hot laps, but you just have to be very careful, even prepping for your lap to not run wide. So let's see. Barry Brumman on a flying lap in the Ferrari. He put himself under a little bit of pressure in Q1 last time, yesterday. So he'll be looking to put in a nice banker on this first flying lap. You can see the rear end stepping out ever so slightly, but that's what they want. They want that for the rotation of the car as we head into the double left-hander. And Barry looking very clean, very composed at the moment.
I don't know if this is going to be reflected by all of the drivers in the field, but from a neutral point of view, loving the action, loving how aggressive it was yesterday. The way you have to drive the car in this year's championship build of game, it's so flamboyant compared to other years. You've got to drive with that oversteer, and with a hugely aggressive steering lock, makes it spectacular for us.
It does. It's very visually dramatic, isn't it, as we head into the hairpin. I'm sure if we rode on board with Barry there, we would have seen just how aggressive he would have turned into that hairpin. And then round the final corner he comes. Will he respect track limits? He does indeed, and will be the first to come over the line with 1 minute 29.741. Let's see how that sits as the other drivers come over for their first laps.
So Nicolas Longuet goes ahead of his teammate by 0.04 of a second. Our championship leader goes ahead of both Ferraris. Man with huge confidence at the moment. Alvaro Carreton finds himself in 4th position. Rookie Otis Lawrence goes into 5th with his early effort. And Brendan Lee was 6th. He's now 7th out front. And another change out there as we get our opening laps on the board.
Zilderham going fastest, but Freddie Rasmussen displacing him and going fastest once again with the 29.612. Jarno Opmeer, his teammate, slots in 3rd, so a good couple of laps for the Red Bull duo. Zilderham, of course, not racing yesterday. No, it's, Tom Manley slots in P3. He was impressive, and I feel like he'll be kicking himself slightly with how his race ended. In the set, we didn't end in the sense of in the barrier or anything, but it just fell off right at the end because he was coming through with Jarno Opmeer. He was ahead of Jarno Opmeer until the very final stages, but wasn't able to slot in P4 like Jarno Opmeer did. But still showing some very good paces, Manley.
Rasmussen, Azildarim, Manley, Otmir, Fashti, and then Butcher, Ronhar, Longay, Burramund, and Lucas Blakely, another former champion in this stacked talent of a field that we have for 2025. Just a reminder for you, the yellow flag that you see on the left-hand side can be generated by cars just going slowly off the racing line. So do not react to that like you would in the same way if you were watching a Grand Prix qualifying session. It's just the nature of the game, and no one's going to get penalised for setting a quick lap under yellow flags, despite those flashing LED boards. Rasmussen, the reigning champion, is the driver to beat. He's done a 29.6 as we get all parked up in the final sector and scatter our way through the field. Drivers coming back to the pit lane. We're on board with Thomas Gell, one of the rookies in the field for this year. And he got himself up and running yesterday with a 13th place finish after all of the penalties were eventually handed out.
I feel like this is a good point to welcome Duncan Hofland to the F1 Sim Racing Championship. Of course, has been part of... Oh, what beautiful... That was wonderful from the TV director. Within seconds, having a look at Duncan Hofland. Of course, he was selected previously, but never raced until today. So this is his first race in this F1 Sim Racing World Championship. How will he deal with the pressure? How will he deal with this qualifying? Currently 16th. He'll want to improve on that 29.9. But I'm sure he's feeling great, nervous, and every other emotion in between.
Yeah, I imagine a huge amount of pride as well. And there'll be a motivation seeing what his fellow teammate has managed to do as a rookie in the championship. As we bring you the music and we bring you a little lull in the action because we've got 3 minutes to go, but that is essentially run number one. And Freddie Rasmussen, after getting boxed out at the end yesterday, only a 9th place finish. Matt, he didn't finish as low as 9th in the entire season last year. Looking to bounce back and a great first run in Q1. Looking further down the order, it is very much a situation where we can see in the drop zone, we've got Hofland, Josh Edu, Crozen, Danny Beresnay, one of the stars of yesterday, and Joni Tormala is currently in the drop zone as well in 20th position.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning that it is a Red Bull Racing Bulls top 4, which is rather impressive to say the least. They want to stay there with Rasmussen, Azildarim, Manley and Opmir. And yeah, it's a bit of a lull now before we get underway once again. But yeah, crucial for Freddie Rasmussen to kickstart a better day today. It's mad to think that he started on the front row of the grid. You know, we spoke about this. I know Marcel, potentially off camera, was saying, look, if Freddie starts the season well, then this could be could be done before it's even begun. But of course, Freddie fell away in the race, and that's something we don't tend to see. So whether that's going to be the story of this season, it's yet to be seen. But Freddie once again showing that he has still got that pace around another track here in China, as we now ride on board with Istvan Pukki. Seriously impressive. I kind of sat there wondering if Pukki almost felt like he should have won the race, though, yesterday, as much as it was an incredible performance from him.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because you get into a situation where you're almost caught in between. Because you've got that opportunity as a rookie. You want to deliver the big points. You don't want to go for any half moves, but brilliant performance to get it there. But it is absolutely, as you say, for elite athletes at the top level of any discipline, when you're like, oh, I was actually quite close in the end.
Yeah.
You do start getting greedy for the next thing.
And the reason I say that is because he had 3-lap fresher tyres than the rest of the field. So that was a great advantage for him to have. But still, I'm sure he will take a P2 in the first race of the season. What's interesting now, with less than a minute to go in this Q1 session, Alfie Butcher retired from this session. So he's not going out again, and he's 6th place. I'll be sat there as Alfie Butcher a little bit concerned, a little bit wondering whether there's going to be a lot of improvement on this second lap.
Well, they clearly don't think the track is going to leap forward by the margin that would knock him out.
Either that, or they've looked around at the competition and gone, I don't think 5 drivers are going to beat my time.
We'll be confident. Joni Tormala, podium finishing class in F1 sim racing as he starts life with Alpine, heading for another couple of hairpins around this circuit, rotating the car with a huge amount of lock. Plenty of drivers generating what appears to be a lockup, but that's the fastest way through. Everyone from 7th downwards is pushing on as they're looking to book their place inside the top 15. And we have our podium finisher from yesterday, Danny Berezne, down there at the moment in the drop zone. We're on board with the 20th place driver. Checkered flag is out. This is the last chance you've got to improve your time.
Yanni Tourmala pushing very hard indeed, had his first lap invalidated, but that would not have been quick enough for any further than 17th position. Same for Danny Berezne, he did a 29.9, and that was also invalidated. For neither of those drivers showing a huge amount of pace at the moment. Have they got something in the locker for this final lap? Jarno Opmeer has finished the session as well in 4th. He is not going to improve. But from Ron Hard down, they're all going for another lap. Of course, they are using another set of these soft tyres, which they then cannot use as we head into Q2 and Q3. Here comes Yanni Tourmala. Brumand hasn't improved and stays 10th. That's going to put him under a bit of pressure as Longuet goes fastest. Where does Tourmala go? Up to P10. That's going to put some pressure on Brumand as he's now down to 12th.
Big lap from Yanni Tourmala, fighting the car all the way through turn 16. Alvaro Caraton gets to 13th. Josh Edu goes over the line and will play no further part in qualifying. Big moment for him as we see Lucas Blakely down into the drop zone as well. And
Roman
now
15th.
Danny Berezne, can he find himself there? Now Danny Berezne goes over the line.
That's
He
Brumand
gets himself
and
to
Blakely.
13th. And Barry Borremond, Duncan Hoffman, Alvaro Caraton, Lucas Blakely and Josh Edu fall at the first hurdle of qualifying. Barry Borremond and Lucas Blakely the shocks. And you can see the pressure that tells that is a big moment again in Sim Racing 2025. A huge moment of consequence in qualifying. Barry Borremond was 20th over the line, got himself into the next part of qualifying, but we have lost a Ferrari and a McLaren once again. Barry Borremond, Duncan Hoffland, Alvaro Caraton, Lucas Blakely and Josh Edu out in the first part of qualifying.
Two massive shocks here at the start of the second race weekend. Brumand and Lucas Blakely out in Q1. What is going on in this 2025 season at the moment? You can see just how devastated Barry is at the moment, inconsolable, and this is where you'd hope to think that Longuet would be playing the role that he was yesterday for his teammate and just saying, look, you can pick it up from 16th on the grid. We've seen it in the past with Opmeer. You have to pray for a little bit of weather, I imagine, if you want a good result later on today. But yeah, that is a incredibly shocking Q1 result for that. Josh Edu down in 20th. I mean, he was in Q3 yesterday. So chopping and changing constantly. Nicolas Longuet, Barry Brumand's teammate, fastest.
My iPad has self-destructed.
Let's have a look together.
Let's look at your one there, the times that we've got. So Barry Borremond in 16th was an improvement at the end. Now he's missed out there by hundredths of a second. The time that you saw on the left-hand side of your graphic was the time to the fastest. So that was the gap to his teammate who set the fastest time. The time to him making it into the session, hundredths of a second. And that is the real brutal moment coming down for him. He only needed to find a hundredth and he would have made it through. Hoffland, Caraton, Blakely and Edu as well. No improvement on the last lap for the back row of the grid. Blakely and Edu not registering personal bests at the end of the qualifying session.
Okay, so we now look ahead towards Q2 and two massive players out already. Alfie Butcher will be breathing a sigh of relief that he's managed to make it through in P12, and I hear we have an interview ready with Lucas Blakely.
Yeah, alongside me, obviously devastated. I can see it already in you, usually so smiley, so happy, and I can feel the energy right here. What went wrong?
Yeah, just couldn't get the lap in the end. I think I was maybe 800s up going into the last corner, which would have put me right on that P15 cut off, and then yeah, just hit the curb the wrong way and lost all the time. Just yeah, gave it a go, didn't work, laps weren't good enough, and yeah, can't do anything about it now. Just gotta get on with it for the race later.
But what we did see yesterday is maybe not the best qualifying for yourself, but you finished in a good position. There is always a chance to fight back.
Yeah, nothing's ever truly lost. I mean, maybe P19, but I think, I don't know. I mean, anyway, no matter what it is, it's not where I want to be. It's not where I should be. So, yeah, obviously massively disappointed. But, you've got to take the rough with the smooth and just keep fighting keep fighting on. There's nothing more you can do.
It is the beginning of the season. We've got so much more racing to go. And I know we say that all the time, but for yourself, it is a mindset that you need to kind of get out of at this point?
No, I mean, my mindset is still the same I've always had. I've still got every last bit of self-belief in myself. So I'm not really concerned. I personally know what I think the problems are, but, can't do much about it. Just got to get on with it. Just try and drive the best laps I can. And in that session, it wasn't good enough, so I can only apologise to the team for that one. But, it's what it is. I'll get on with it. I know what I can do. So.
Okay, well, good luck for the race.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire. Thank you, Lucas Blakely, for talking us through what is a really tough moment. He's already looking ahead, trying to turn the page. His performance to come through the field will give him the encouragement that it can be turned around. Sometimes qualifying entirely defining. Yesterday, it absolutely wasn't the case. Are you expecting it to be more of a defined event by qualifying this one?
Again, I mean, it depends on the weather. It depends if there is an opportunity for strategy there. We saw yesterday that there is a possibility of some kind of aggressive strategy working, but this is a different track. I've heard the drivers saying this one might be a little bit of a calmer affair than Australia. So, Lucas...
That could still be an epic race, though, couldn't it? Because I think most things were calmer than Australia.
Every single race we've ever had is calmer than Australia. But yeah, it's going to be very tough for Lucas, starting 19th. It's not even like he's a few further up with Brumand in 16th, and he might be able to pick himself up from there. He's on the back row of the grid. So mentally, he's just going to have to reset. There's always opportunities in the race, but he's going to have to require a little bit of luck as well.
Yeah, maybe he will be the driver going hyper-aggressive on the strategy later on when we go racing. First of two races for you today on day 2 of the event, the opening one of the year for F1 Sim Racing in 2025. And 13 minutes ticking down. We're into Q2, so obviously less time on the clock, and it means that we get on with things slightly quicker. There might be a disparity in terms of tyre age at this stage of the session, but we will get the runs at the limit towards the end of this. We've got one McLaren left, we've got one Ferrari left, and Nicolas Longuet turning the page on yesterday. New day, new performance, and he was fastest of anyone there at the first part of qualifying in Q1.
Yeah, crucial for him though, did go for an extra run, so it means that he'll have one run in Q3 should he make it, which will be representative. These runs for most of these drivers should be on an old set of soft tyres, so trying to get some kind of banker in, but it's good to see them out there pushing, as Fassi is right now, wrestling the car constantly, it has to be said, through that double left-hander and a hard braking zone. Want to be very careful on how you turn into that corner, avoid those yellow little mini sausage curbs, I'm going to call them, as we then go around this
Chipolata.
Very long right-hander. Chipolatas, yep.
That's the sort of nonsense you usually chuck at me.
Yeah, true.
I'm enjoying this. Do you want to carry on?
No, I love that. No, yeah, you take over now.
No. I'm enjoying it this way round. Brilliant performance yesterday by Fassi. He was superb under pressure. Man, that steering lock is so Fernando Alonso at Renault. It's ridiculous. It's just crank it on for all you're worth. This corner, an absolute nightmare. Just a complete nightmare. I remember from my time playing the game that I never got on with turn 16 in Shanghai. You did, though. You loved racing around this place. You can get so close to the end of a great lap. I mean, as Lucas Blakely, who is a champion of F1 Sim Racing, just told us, you can hit the curb wrong and it can all fall away. And the previous effort for 15 corners, just one strike wrong on those curbs, and it's done in sight of the line.
Some laps coming in now. Longuet, Otmir. Quick lap from Longuet, has to be said, 29.5 once again as we come over the line. Freddie Rasmussen slots himself in P2. But yeah, that final corner, how Marcel was chatting yesterday about it being a little bit of luck with how low these cars are running. You can just hit the curb a little bit wrong. Danny Beresnay not going anywhere near that yellow sausage curb on the final corner as he comes over the line for P6. But yeah, there is an element of luck, but also you make your own luck at the end of a full season. You're not going to get unlucky the entire time. Although Freddie says that the reason he didn't ever win a championship was because of luck, and then feels like maybe last year he got a slice of it and he won the championship. So there are very fine margins in this series, and sometimes it can go your way, sometimes it won't.
It's Nicholas Longe ahead of Freddie Rasmussen out front. Not getting representative running across the board, but we do have times on the board, so we'll tell you what we've got. Still in the pits, Tom Manley. We've got Crozen, we've got Butcher, we've got Tormala, we've got Lee, and we've got Zilderim, who was really, really strong in Q1. He will be hoping, in his first qualifying session of the season, that he can carry that all the way through as Thomas Gall, the driver that we've been on board with a couple of times in the Haas, making his way through. And he comes back to the pits. So Alfie Butcher is weaving away on an outlap. And let's hear how things are going for him in this session.
Let's head out and get a run in.
Now?
Yep. Yeah, let's go now. Okay. Air on the side of caution. Yeah, I get you. Alright, let's...
So communication, yeah, err on the side of caution, go slightly earlier, maybe the track a little bit empty, but that's a driver reflecting on not an ideal qualifying performance yesterday, wanting to show his true potential behind the wheel today.
Yeah, interesting comms. You would, I don't know if you want to go into this at all cautiously, just purely because the margins are so small. You just have to let your driver go for it. That was a bit of a moment round the final corner, which will affect his run down towards turn one ever so slightly.
Going to cost him some momentum across the line, but remember what Marcel Kiefer was showing us yesterday brilliantly with the analysis. Minor moments behind the wheel
that's a moment.
Can have
that's also a moment as
major effects on the timing page, and you do not want to be taking to the grass to get out of the way.
Yeah, I think that was Fassi that got out of the way quite late, it has to be said. I wonder if McLaren Shadow will have anything to say about that, because that would have definitely affected Butcher's concentration at the very least, as navigates that right-hander.
At minimum, it was a distraction there.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? At minimum, it was a distraction. Unusual to see a driver take to the grass in that way. So sometimes, even when you go out and you play it safe, you're out of sequence with everyone else, and then suddenly you're starting your lap when everyone else is just peeling out for their out lap, and you saw the result of it as we make our way to the crucial direction change, really relying on confidence and rotation of the car, because every meter of acceleration that you take out of turn 13, you carry all the way down to the heaviest braking zone on this circuit, the defining hairpin at 14.
Here comes Butcher then. One of the most important braking zones on the track. Heavy on the brakes, 100-meter push. Look at how aggressive on the steering wheel he is. Manages to slow it down beautifully. Now the final corner, how much does he take into this? Yeah, he really does attack the curb there. I think he'll be happy with that one as he comes over the line.
Was waiting for the oversteer snap there, Matt, and it just didn't materialise. That was great speed when it counted. Third place for Alfie Butcher. And going early, will that pay off? This is the reason that he went early. He didn't want to get himself stuck in this kind of train, because dirty air does affect these cars, Matt. You can't be stuck right under someone else's rear wing.
No, it's not ideal in the slightest. Here's a Zilderim. Was pretty impressive in Q1. There's a car pretty close to him through these first couple of corners, which wouldn't be the most ideal thing in the world for him, but he's pushing on all the same in the Racing Bulls car.
Well, certainly not in the sweepers that are going to come when he's rotated the car through the hairpin. This is where you need the complete aerodynamic performance of the car. You need all the grip underneath you. Not sure I'd fancy being that close to the car in front. Doesn't seem to be affecting him at the moment. The game engine creating that dirty air, working the wheel. If anything, he's catching. He could, in a few moments, be way too close for comfort.
Yeah, he's continuing on this lap at the moment is Zilderim, as he hasn't put a lap time on the board yet. So this is a crucial one. Of course, you've got the likes of Longe, Butcher, Otmir all on laps as well after setting pretty decent bankers in this Q2 session. I was speaking to Wilson Hughes, who he said he would like to be named as the GOAT, so I'll do that. And he was saying it would be around a 0.4, 0.5 in Q2. That's what he expects anyway. And then as we get to Q3, it'll be around a 0.1 or 0.2.
Basically going racing at this stage.
This is getting very close indeed with the Alpine ahead of him, and you'd have to say being held up slightly now at this point, so not the best track strategy in terms of positioning. but it's gone fastest.
I knew that was going to happen. I knew that was going to happen. Well, it's unusual, but it worked for him. Azildarim to second place. His teammate Tom Manley directly behind in the Racing Bulls. Yeah, they've got another new name. Terrific. Thomas Ronhaar is
a blistering lap from
top
Ronhaar.
of the pile. Here's his teammate Brendan Lee. Couldn't manage to get through into Q2 yesterday. Looking to try and get into Q3 today. 12th fastest as he completes his run. Thomas Ronhaar, top of the pile at the moment.
29.1 from Ronhaar.
As the Racing Bulls continue their strong form. This is Nicholas Longay in 5th place at the moment. He's shown good pace around this circuit so far, and he bails out of that one, and so he will go again on the final run.
That's a massive statement from Ronhaar. This was, as Wilson Hughes would like to be called, the GOAT, told me before the session that he thought that would be pole in Q3. We've still got track evolution to go. So Ronhaar has put a lap time on the board that everybody else has to chase. As we now take a look at Pookie, who was so impressive yesterday, on a lap at the moment as he heads down this long old straight.
And as he does so, I believe we can listen in to some of the chatter.
Good lap done, Nico. Really good lap.
I think if we just find a tiny improvement, I should be more than fine.
Good lap done.
A 0.5, he reckons a tiny improvement. He'll be fine. And Ronhaar's put a 0.1 in.
It's outstanding pace for this stage of the session. And Ronhaar really throwing down a big lap. In the drop zone at the moment, we've got Pookie, Lee, Tormala, Beresne and Gal. We've got, looking over his shoulder though, Jarno Opmeer does not want a repeat of what we had yesterday, out in Q2, wants the chance to post it in the top 5 and then show that prestigious race pace that he's always had. This year switching to the Red Bull team, and confident performance in the race yesterday for the opening one of the year. But the story of this session so far, incredible speed for the kick driver Thomas Ronhaar, our runner-up in the championship from last year, top of the pile with just one run to go in this second part of qualifying.
So what I saw yesterday, which was quite cool to see, is different purple sectors for different drivers and slightly different setups. Forget that. Thomas Ronhaar's like, I'll have all of them. Thank you very much. Clear. And the, I'd say, we're going to look at the gains where he's really excelled. It's the last sector. He's a 10th clear of anybody in that final sector. So I wonder if he's really sent it in that turn 16 corner to get the launch that he wanted. But either way, he will not be going out again. He's very happy indeed with that lap time. Will the likes of Azildarim and Manley feel comfortable in second and third? You would think so in terms of positioning, but they're 2-3 tenths behind the fastest time, and that's unexpected. That is completely unprecedented for F1 sim racing. 2-3 tenths is usually the gap between the entire top 10.
Yeah, that is a real statement, as you said, Matt, and it's intriguing whether we get a different sight of things in these final 2 minutes, whether it sort of goes back to the usual close gap. Either way, Thomas Ronhaar, he knows it's quick. He's chilling out right now. So everyone else is thinking about carrying on and looking for a lap time, trying to find that top 10. Pookie trying to continue the good feeling from yesterday. Said it was a little bit unexpected to be on the podium, but it was a great performance on debut in the Sim Racing Championship. Brendan Lee trying to score his first Q3 appearance of the season. Joni Tormala trying to do the same. Danny Beresne, after that superb tactical run to the podium yesterday, trying to improve. And Thomas Gal learning with every minute that he runs in the session as a rookie driver. Same will be true as Pookie, for Pookie out front. And then you've got Otis Lawrence once again, won that pace, absolutely searing. It's been really impressive so far, but can he deliver when the checkered flag is about to be waved as everyone fights for their own private part of the circuit?
Winding up now, final Q2 moments, and really looking forward to seeing how this one unfolds. Jarno Opmeer, he has to make it through to Q3. He really does. He doesn't want to be doing another heroic drive like we've seen so many times with strategy. He needs to just put himself in the mix. As we ride on board with Alfie Butcher, who was unbelievable last year. A race winner at 16 years old. Of course, he's now not even the youngest on the grid, with the likes of Otis Lawrence now joining. But still, not a lot of experience, not a lot compared to the likes of Freddie Rasmussen. But still impressing all the same last year. He's going to have to pick himself up from yesterday, and he's trying to do that at the moment. He's improved in that first sector, as you can see. If you're wondering how is Alfie doing on his lap, look at the top right. You'll see the time ticking away, but as he goes through the sector times, you will see whether improvement or the fact that he's slower on this particular lap than his fastest one.
He continues on. Right, left-hander ahead of us. You can see that he's up, and he's going to have to be up because you're never comfortable if you're in ninth position at this stage of Q2. Pukki, Lee, Tourmalet, Beresne and Gao behind. And so he's looking to extend his advantage out there. Track at the best that it's been at all day long. Step forward or risk the exit is the point as he sends it to the hardest braking zone on the circuit. Braking down, rotating the car, and then how much is he willing to risk in the corner that caught out his teammate? Little bit of hesitation on the throttle, but it's clean through there. Alfie Butcher to the line. Alfie Butcher to fourth.
Yeah, there was a bit of hesitancy you could hear on the throttle, couldn't you, around that final corner. May have cost him a little bit of time, but he's up to fourth, which he'll be still looking behind himself, that's for sure, as the other drivers set laps. Here comes Pukki, currently 11th.
Key moment. Can Pukki put the pressure on those ahead? He can. 8th position for Pukki to drop Jarno Opmeer into the bottom 5. Freddie Rasmussen in 10th position. Jarno Opmeer in 11th right now as Nicholas Longue, the sole Ferrari in the field, remains in 7th place. Huge changes across the board as over the line we go. And Alfie Butcher is into the drop zone. Joni Tourmalet is in 12th. Nicholas Longue is out. Pukki is out. And Freddie Rasmussen is in the pits. Extraordinary stuff and consternation. Consternation between the teams, the murmuring turning into shouting, and once again, qualifying has turned out a huge shock. Freddie Rasmussen, our reigning champion, out in Q2.
Massive shock. But then look at Otis Lawrence with a 29.0 to go fastest of the lot, of course, having that run right at the end. So Lawrence and Manley impressing. On the other side, as you say, Freddie Rasmussen down in 15th, Longue as well, not improving on his final lap. Alfie Butcher was 4th when he came over the line, finishes 11th in that session. But crucially, if we look at the more positive stories, Jarno Opmeer making it through to Q3. That'll be a confidence builder, but he looks to the side, he looks to Freddie Rasmussen and goes, wait, you're not with me?
Yeah, absolutely incredible end there, where it felt like it was just press refresh and we got an entirely different order over the line. Flurry of late laps changing things, and it means that we have Alfie Butcher, Joni Tourmalet, Nicholas Longue, Esteban Pukki, and our reigning champion, Freddie Rasmussen, finding themselves out. And, well, once again, incredibly tight margins. The difference between making it through and heading out, 0.02 of a second. The time's on your screen, the gap to the fastest overall time set by Otis Lawrence, and he is proving over one lap to be formidable and very comfortable with F1 sim racing.
A big discrepancy as well between the drivers. This is massive compared to what we usually see. Half a second separate, I mean, when you actually say it, half a second is nothing, but half a second in F1 sim racing is massive. And to see Freddie Rasmussen down there in 15th, and also it kind of shows a little bit perhaps of the expectations of the team. And when I spoke to Wilson Hughes from McLaren, him thinking, yeah, it's going to be a 0.1, 0.2 for pole. It was quicker in Q2. Let's go to our interview where Claire Cottingham has Nicholas Longue.
I do indeed. Tough day already for Ferrari, for you and both your teammate, unfortunately. Can you just talk us through your qualifying session there? What happened? Where were the kind of issues that you had?
I didn't really have any issues. It's just I couldn't place myself in the train to do the quali lap, and everyone that was just following each other then managed to do like a really good lap with the slipstream, and not having that is basically impossible to then qualify in the top 10. It is what it is. I guess we just have to, I don't know, work from it and move on.
Absolutely, and we've spoken often how sim races can change so quickly straight off the line. It's a fight back for you and for your teammate. Let's just quickly speak about Barry. How is he? He looked a bit stressed, obviously, after being knocked out in Q1.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we weren't expecting this result. We were feeling very confident in China. Barry, I think, made a mistake maybe on his second lap in Q1. but we didn't expect Q1 to be that quick. And again, I think it was due to the slipstream in qualifying. So he was caught off guard as well, just like us. And yeah, it should repeat for me in Q2, to be honest.
Yeah, disappointing. I can see that you were disappointed. We go racing, though, next. Talk me through how you're feeling. What's the race plan from here?
Well, we saw yesterday how crazy it was, so I expect then nothing less. I mean, China has a very long back straight, so the DRS will be very powerful. I guess we just have to maximize our opportunities when we get them and hope for maybe some strategies and people making mistakes in front of us.
On a positive, I believe yesterday you said China you quite enjoyed, so at least it'll be a good race.
Yeah, no, I feel very fast. I mean, even in Q1 and Q2, I was top on the first few runs. I mean, that was when we could just do a clean lap by ourselves. But then as the slipstream came on, it was just very hard to manage that situation, yeah.
Okay, well, good luck, and thank you for chatting to us.
Thank you so much.
Always appreciate the drivers speaking to Claire Cottingham after it's not gone to plan. The toughest thing about sport is fronting up when it's not gone the way that you want. Anyone can celebrate, but finding the right words at the right time. We so appreciate them talking to us after a session like that. Drivers heading back to the rigs, whether they're out or whether they're through into the final part of qualifying. A confounding start to the season, though, you have to say. We're getting contenders that we expected, but big names dropping in every single section of qualifying today and yesterday. If you're going to make it to the front in this championship, Matt Gallagher, you've got to push all the way in every single session. It sounds obvious, but this year it's proving really, really tough. And do I see grey skies above the Shanghai International Circuit?
Yes, the weather has changed quite drastically. Not particularly dark clouds at the moment. But yeah, interesting to hear from Nicholas Longuet, and of course the different tactics for this track in particular compared to what we saw yesterday with Australia with the slipstreaming and the trains that we saw. It's timing your quali lap to perfection where you can benefit from the slipstream but also not be hindered too much like we saw Azildarim catching the Alpine in Q2. So fascinating to watch as, oh my goodness me, we almost had 4 wide going into the hairpin on an outlap.
Hold on, what's going on, lads? It's not race day yet. Well, it is race day, but it's not race hour yet. Incredible fight for track position. We haven't got going yet.
It's like a safety car restart, Alex.
We wouldn't normally do this, but do you think Ron Har the favourite for pole here? I just want to almost set up the expectations before we get the reality, because I just want to point out to everyone how unusual it is that we're getting so many shocks, that we're getting so many surprises, multiple champions falling by the wayside. Yes, the games change year on year. Yes, you're always going to have to do some adaptation as a result. But it really does feel right on the edge. I'll get your answer for that in a few moments after we've heard from one of the drivers.
Start of Q3, you have to basically go out immediately on softs, and we will skip any kind of tire warm-up. You will rush out of Q3 as quickly as you can on the outlap. Just send it. Yeah.
And sounds good.
And the reason, Alex, 22% chance of rain. In 5 minutes, that changed to 89% light rain.
To be honest, you should have guaranteed it the moment that I mentioned that we've got a dry session ahead of us. There we go.
Still in the pits. That's going to be crucial for him.
Well, he's decided to go the traditional way. So do we make Ron Har the favourite for pole on the basis of what we saw on that on the middle run in Q2?
Yes, but also I think it's whoever gets the best track conditions and who can utilise the slipstream the best. Let's see what these lap times are. These may well be the best we see in the entire session.
So hurry up to get the dry conditions is the message from the teams to the drivers. So you're frantically trying to perform under pressure, and that is exactly what Azildarim has done. Ron Har again repeats the 29.1 that he did in Q2, but in Q3 it's Azildarim who's looked comfortable all the way through for Racing Bulls, and once again it's a different name at the front of the field as we complete our first runs. If it starts raining now, they're celebrating at Racing Bulls.
And then we start the podcast that we said we weren't going to have, Alex. So here we go, 8 minutes still to go in this session. We don't see any raindrops just yet, but the weather forecast tells us that we are going to have some light rain very, very soon. Azildarim, what a lap time from him in the Racing Bulls. Just turns up to the season and says, well, this is what I've got. I've been preparing for China, and that's the kind of mental strength that this driver clearly has. It's 1 lap. That's what the team was telling Thomas Ronhaar, and I'm sure the same for Racing Bulls as well. Jarno Opmeer, crucially for him, up in 3rd, with Brendan Lee, by the way, in P4 at the moment in his final season here in F1 Sim Racing. And there's the spot of rain.
The man who didn't start yesterday could start race 2 of the season from pole position. Another twist. The rain comes down, the grip fades away, and his 13th start in F1 Sim Racing. If the rain continues to fall...
Yeah, it's chucking it down, Alex. Otis Lawrence has just started his lap. How much grip is he going to have in that Aston Martin? I think they've made a mistake here.
Well, they've gone for the traditional run plan. They've played it by ear. Everyone else went in a different direction. Ozilderim will be looking on because it doesn't appear that the grip is going to be out there. Crozen, who was at the back yesterday, is going to start in P6 as it stands. Another rookie in this field. We're on board with the man who's been so quick over 1 lap, but he's not just fighting the car, he is fighting the entire circuit right now and the wet conditions.
24-0 for Lawrence in that first sector, a 23-2 Ozilderim did. This is going to put him nowhere. He's going to be ahead of Manley, who hasn't put a lap time in. Lawrence hasn't got any grip out there.
Well, they went for the traditional run plan. Everyone else reacted. You heard the call from the kick team to Thomas Ronhaar to get out there and get the job done. And this is why the weather has changed, and so has our order. A complete roulette wheel of a championship. We're going to get another first-time pole position taker. Ozilderim's 13th start is going to be from the front of the field. Incredible that the driver that we didn't have in the field yesterday will start at the very, very front of this talented grid where you can take nothing for granted this year. It's been a great lap considering the conditions for Otis Lawrence. He's done it really, really well considering the grip's fading away, but the grip just isn't there, and he finds himself in 9th position. The run plan was not the right one. The weather forecast was correct, and the first runs have decided everything out there. Racing Bulls at the front of the field. Pole position for the Turkish driver Yılmaz Ozilderim, celebrating a maiden pole position in F1 Sim Racing because no one can improve in these wet weather conditions. Ronhaar did what he did. He replicated the lap time from Q2. Ozilderim took a step forward, and his reward, Matt, is pole position. What is happening this year? And whatever is, it is amazing to watch.
Of course, there won't be these final laps due to the conditions, but Ozilderim's lap time is still right up there anyway. It's not like he's lucked out maybe with Kevin Magnussen in Brazil. This is a legit
don't slander
lap. Not slander, just saying. Some might call it luck. Ozilderim, that's a fantastic lap, and he's beaten the other drivers out there who also had 1 shot. I think I also want to mention the 2 rookies at Haas, 6th and 8th.
Yeah, great
Haas
turnaround.
have rolled the dice again and gone, oh, we've got 2 fantastic rookies on our hands again.
Well, especially to find yourself at the very back and, you know, it's a gut punch. All of these drivers take pride in their performance. We were talking yesterday about all of the ludicrous hours that you have to put in. To come back the next day and to post it in Q3, excellent work. You don't get that opportunity unless you've performed for the rest of the session, and they've taken their chance. As you say, that has turned into a 1-lap shootout. You have 1 Racing Bull car in 10th. You have 1 on pole position. We have 2 unexpected pole sitters at the start of the year. We're having champions fall out of contention in Q1 and Q2. It is epic so far this season. You can't take anything for granted. It's all got to be hard fought and hard earned on the racetrack. And it's now so wet out there, DRS has been disabled.
Tom Manley's going to be kicking himself ever so slightly. 1, obviously, because he's down in 10th, but mainly because he invalidated his lap time. He would have been up there. He would have actually been starting from 4th on the grid had he not invalidated his lap. He did a 29.314. Of course, you have to factor in maybe a bit of advantage you might have gained through track limits extension, but Manley now just out there to set a lap on the intermediate tyres, giving us something to watch as we wait for this session to count down. But yeah, a brilliant lap from Ozilderim. Ronhaar's right up there as well. Enter Jarno Opmeer in 3rd. He's going to be fancying his chances at a victory later on today, as we know just how good he is in the races. And then also, you know, it's worth mentioning, of course, Fassi yesterday, Ozilderim today. Fassi's up there in 5th, our championship leader.
Yeah, good point.
Has
We've barely mentioned him because of the shocks that we've had here. So what a turnaround. Brendan Lee, yesterday, out in Q1, finds himself 4th on the grid. Man who is retiring at the end of the year, will be going full send. Thomas Ronhart, our favourite for pole, but then totally different equation. And Zilderim, he delivered. As we continue on with Tom Manley. There is time still on the board. If you're just pressing play, we started this session in the dry. We're finishing it in the wet. It was a 1-lap shootout as we've now moved to Inter tyres. And my word, what a twist. What a story. What a season we're having. Feels like yesterday set the tone. Feels like it's just going to continue all year long. Tom Manley going out there. And it's worth going out there in these conditions, just on the off chance that this continues later on. If we get Inters again, this is a sighter. Take every opportunity you can. Brendan Lee's just having fun. Look at the drifting around there. It's brilliant.
He said he was going to put on a show for us this year, and this is exactly what we want from him. Oh, don't go in the pits, Brendan. Oh, what a slide, though. What a drift from the 2-time champ. We wanted another lap of that.
Half champion, half comedian, that man. Loving his work so far this season. And Tom Manley continuing to run out there, wondering what might have been. That is the nature of this championship. It always will be. Well, a slightly different qualifying session for you there, but another new name at the front of the field. For the first time in F1 sim racing, Ozilderim will start from pole position. Did you think it was going to be Fassi and Ozilderim, our first 2 pole sitters of the year? If you did, I don't believe it.
Neither do I. Neither do I. And it's great. It just continues this story of we genuinely don't know who's going to be on pole from race to race and who's going to be fastest. But look, Ozilderim, when he looks in his mirrors and sees Ronhar and Otmir behind him, probably not going to be feeling ever so confident to win the race. But let's see.
Elbows out. Elbows out.
The rookies have surprised already, so...
Well, we might have thought that about yesterday. And what did we see? We saw brilliant, certainly in the middle of the race, Fassi being so cool behind the wheel. Crucial moment in the middle of yesterday's race where he was able to get back past Freddie Rasmussen, giving himself the option of attacking Beresnay on that last lap. And what a performance under pressure. One and done, and pole position the reward. Ulas Ozilderim, who will be delighted with his performance. Another new name on pole for the F1 Sim Racing Championship in another superb session that's upended expectations for what we can expect in F1 Sim Racing 2025.
Ozilderim, 12 race starts, 10 points to his name. He will now start from the front of the field later on today. So I imagine there will be some nerves. Of course, not a lot of experience on his shoulders, but let's see how he copes.
Indeed, Matt. Alex, never a dull moment in F1 sim racing. Had a bit of everything for completely the different reasons this time. And as you mentioned, Ulas, his highest points place last year was 5th in Las Vegas. No other time was he in the points last year. Didn't race yesterday, comes in today. Absolutely sets his agenda for the 2025 season and looks very calm about it, I have to say.
He's had about 5 minutes to get used to it. It happened right at the start of the session.
Yeah, roll back that replay. Probably buzzing a couple of moments ago. Brilliant performance. I mean, well done to him. That was, as Matt said, that was a one shot for everyone out there, and he has delivered. He's taken his opportunity, and he can celebrate a well-won pole position. Well done, that man.
And with a bit of Tokyo drifting from Brendan Lee to enjoy. And hey, not how they would have planned. Interesting to see some of that slipstream being used in quali, which will be interesting. The stewards we spoke to before we came out today, using that slipstream to advantage. We'll have to wait and see what's reported back on that for some of the teams.
Well, realistically, that shouldn't really be possible with the game engine. This is a championship build. You want to see, things are never going to be replicated 100%, but that should not be the ideal car placement.
They shouldn't be able to follow that close. I think it's the fact that in the rules, my understanding of the rules and what I've heard from other drivers is that you're not allowed to slipstream with your teammate.
Yeah.
But what we saw there was teams kind of working together in some ways and going two by two.
Risk versus reward, because if you catch the car ahead into the braking zone and you are legitimately quicker, you might have nowhere to go and you might compromise your lap. So tactics, as you say, Tom, all the way through, including slipstreaming with other cars. It's a tenet of the championship.
Fascinating. That's what we've done. We've opened
he
it up.
didn't even get pole, Tom.
Come on. Claire Costingham is with the pole sitter, Ulas.
I am indeed. Another surprise pole position and another very happy driver alongside me. Talk to me, how was that and how did you manage to pick out such a fascinating and fantastic lap?
I mean, it was very intense session because everyone was waiting for the rain, so we only had one lap to do. We have to go out very early and try to get behind someone to get some help from them. But it was very intense in the Q1 as well because everyone basically bunched up in the end as well. So it was very stressful, but I'm very, very happy right now. I didn't expect this.
Well, you are on pole position, so that's always great. And we were just talking on the desk then about slipstreaming within qualifying. We saw quite a lot of that during qualifying. Was that something that helped you or hindered you?
I mean, for the Q1, it didn't help us because we didn't know everyone was going to go for it, but we saw that everyone is going for it. So we did it for Q2 and Q3. I don't know if it helped us too much because we lost too much time, but I think it's still good. I don't think it's the best for the races, but I think it's good for us that we got this pole position with the slipstream. So I'm very happy with it.
We saw yesterday Ismail Fassi on pole position, and eventually, actually, I mean, it was a chaotic race, but he still came out on top. So for yourself, are you looking forward to kind of, I don't know, how are we going to approach this?
I mean, I also hope to keep my position, P1. I'm going to go for it. I will try everything to keep the position.
But he didn't keep position. That was what was so interesting about it. We did lots of,
But in the end, he keep it, so that's what matters.
That's the stat that you care about. Yeah. Are you feeling confident?
Yeah, I'm feeling very confident.
Okay, who are you worried about that's behind you? Apart from, of course, we have the whole grid behind you. Is there anyone that is a real concern? Because we've got such a jumbled up grid. We've got Brendan Lee in fourth and Thomas Ronhaar not far behind.
Yeah, I have two kick drivers behind me, so I'm a little worried about it because they're teammates. They can work together. But I will still do my best. Tom is also in P10, so we can do something together. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's a good point. You've got teammates behind you that could start working together. Good luck, and thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Top start then for the Origin RB guys, and Ulas doing the business in his 13th ever start. Who joins us on the desk? This man needs no introduction. It's the one and only Mr. Marcel Kiefer.
Part of the green team today as well.
Obviously, I know, very professional, to bed as soon as the race is done last night. Fresh for today. Are you all good for this action today?
Yes, I am. I mean, it was an interesting qualifying, let's say. I think in Australia the slipstream was not that important. We didn't see these massive trains, but what do you guys think about that? I'm not so sure if I like it. I think it is a bit of a just if you have the right car ahead of you, you gain a lot. But if you have a driver that makes a mistake, you're out. And actually, we will see that also on our highlight reel with Freddy, because that's why he was out. He didn't make a mistake. He just had Nicolas Longe ahead of him, and Nico didn't get a good lap. So Freddy was 5 tenths down at the end of the lap from his actual Delta lap. So, yeah.
Well, I want to see this because, I mean, you look at Freddy starting in P15. I mean, Barry Brimont misses out by 100th to Joni Tormula to get out of Q1. And then you have Alfie Butcher, 200ths off Danny Berezny. But so you're saying and suggesting for those watching that it's about which driver you pick your battles with, who's in front of you, Marcel?
I mean, it's kind of like you pick a driver, you hope that it's going to go well. And if it goes well, you're maybe on pole. Honestly, these lap times, they were crazy fast. I've heard from the drivers in clean air when they practice at home, a 0.0 is, for some drivers, the PB. And we see a 0.0 on LAN from basically one of the more rookie drivers. That's actually crazy. The best lap, from what I've heard, is a high 0.9 at home. That is a perfect lap. And we're talking here with mixed conditions, slipstream and distractions, at low 0. And it wasn't even the final run. With slipstream, I think we would have maybe seen even a 0.8. So it's actually crazy how much this actually affects
Marcel, I see the point that you're making here, because we always get the slipstream at places like Monza, right, and maybe Baku when you have the straight there. We don't really have this a lot when it comes to Shanghai in qualifying.
I think it's obviously the back straight. Fine, you can, but obviously the teammates aren't allowed to do that together, so they picked their other driver to go with. But I think it's the fact that it was the entire lap they were essentially very close.
I mean, there were trains. There was like quali trains.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a single qualifying. They were all just following each other. And I feel like in this year's game, maybe it looks like the dirt here is not as strong and powerful as the slipstream. So that's why I was surprised that they didn't lose more time in the middle sector, especially when you were following Ulas. He was closing up to, I think it was Josh in Q2, like massively. He had slipstream in the S.
He was pushing him over the line in the end, wasn't he? Yeah.
So, yeah.
So Marcel Kiefer, if you weren't joining us yesterday, former F1 sim racing driver, is also our analysis expert. We'll be bringing it from the pad in front of you. What have you got for us, Marcel?
So the first thing, which is very interesting for the fans out there, when the drivers are pushing, they're actually at the start of the straight, the first start-finish straight, they're positioning their car on the right, because we had it also yesterday in Australia, but if they position their car in this area of the track, the car will bottom out and they will lose a lot of lap time. So that's why all of the drivers, you could see them at the beginning of the lap, they are positioning themselves on the right, which is not the usual racing line, but because of how the track and the setups work in the game, they just have to do this. Then we have another driving kind of side of thing. If you pay attention to Nicolas Longue's steering wheel, in the hairpin, they're going full Alonso lock like crazy every single time. They have to do it to slow down the car enough and still make sure that they carry the minimum speed throughout the whole corner. We had another incident which I think should be penalized. That was in Q2. With
This is why Marcel's on. He's now giving the stewards something to look into straight away.
Like I would be surprised because Ismail is looking behind and he knows that there's a car coming. It's actually Alfie Butcher on a hot lap, and he's basically blocking the racing line. He's still reacting, going off, but look, the damage is already done. There's nothing to be said. Like, this is a slam dunk penalty, even if he would be on pole. In my opinion, you can't argue against that. Even though he didn't do it intentional because he just came out of the pits, he still impeded, and it actually ruined Alfie's first run. And I know how much pressure it puts, especially on a grid like this with the slipstream train. You know, you have maybe one shot, and Alfie even had this whole lap without slipstream. So he basically had a double disadvantage.
It's less forgiveness as well for the drivers here in this sim racing championship because you have a track map. Like you can literally see who's around you on the circuit.
And I mean, you also have the engineers. The engineers usually keep track of what's going on. They have a live update of cars coming. They should make them aware, like there's a car going around for a flying lap. Maybe they just didn't realize that, or maybe they were sleeping for a second, I don't know. But anyways, here you can actually see the slipstream effect and these trains. That was in Q2 when Thomas Ronner already did a 0.1, which is crazy. Look at these gaps. But he managed it perfectly. He wasn't too close, he wasn't too far, and he just benefited a lot. Huge improvement. You can even see he's still gaining lap time just because of the slipstream. And then crosses the line for P1 at the end of Q2. And next up we have, unfortunately, the suffering lap from Frederick Rasmussen when he picked to be behind the Ferrari of Nicolas Longue, who didn't manage to align it fully.
You would think, by the way, if you're picking a driver, Longue is usually a one-lap specialist.
I would do the same thing. Like Longue is by far one of the best drivers over one lap, but it's so difficult with these tracks. I mean, we already have the bumps in the start-finish straight. Also, they said in turn 1 you can bottom out if you hit the wrong line, and you can actually see that here with Nico, that his car is kind of drifting towards the outside, whilst Freddy is actually managing to close in. But you can see the delta in the top right. He's losing more and more. Also here, he's getting too close. Already 1.5 tenths down. Then next up, 3.5 tenths going into sector 3. He's closing in again. Nico's just not getting the line right. And at the end, it's 5 tenths, and Freddy just decides there's no point in completing the lap. So he went into the pits. It was basically no fault of his own. The only fault that he did was, well...
Would you say he started the lap a bit too close to him, though? If you're...
I mean, if it's a thing, if you need a slipstream in order to take a top 5, and it appears that in that session you did, he's done everything right, hasn't he? He's behind Longue. He's positioned it around the same distance that we saw for others in the field. Was there anything that he did wrong there, Marcel?
Pick the wrong driver.
That's
what we should.
But by the book, you'd always pick Nicolas Longue.
I mean, you know, you also have to kind of make a gamble between how close do you want to be, because the closer you are, the stronger the slipstream, the further away, the less benefit you have. And obviously, all of these drivers, they want to make sure maybe Freddy took too big of a risk because it's only Q2. But again, at this point, he was in P7. If people improve like Ronner with such a good slipstream, then no matter what he does, if he doesn't get a good toe, then he's out. And Nico didn't have a toe, so if there's a fast driver ahead that gets a tow from another driver, and you're again behind this driver that is actually fast but is getting a tow, it's pretty much done deal. And that's what happened with Ronner. He managed it perfectly, he got a great tow, and in the end, he was on pole.
I really appreciate, as I'm sure many of our viewers have appreciated that breakdown from you there, Marcel. I'm curious to get to your thoughts then, as a former driver. For Otis Lawrence, we saw taking his time. Aston Martin went with the sort of conventional run and decided not to go out and set that and deliver when it mattered in terms of the fastest lap they could do. But in terms of him coming in to day 2, Marcel, what will he have learned from yesterday?
I mean, from yesterday, that he can qualify at the top, but I mean, the race was still a complete different breed. And if we see something like that today again, with maybe mixed conditions, I think we're in for another super chaotic race, especially seeing how strong the slipstream is. And if one driver decides to suddenly burst their full hybrid engine, and it's like, okay, I want to make a move now, everyone might react, someone might not see it coming, and then we see the gaps forming, we see some packs forming again, and you kind of just need to make sure you don't get damaged. Like, for example, turn 1 yesterday, Joni Tomla, first lap, immediately wing gone, even though he had a great start. It can happen so fast. So yeah, I think my advice for Otis is just keep your head cool. You're a young guy. You already are making a good reputation for yourself here. I think everyone's rating him highly, any team. So Aston Martin has to be careful that he's not getting snatched from another team for next year.
You said as well about not seeing something coming. From our perspective, it felt as though Aston Martin didn't look at the weather.
Like, no,
and that's how they feel.
What do you think? You know, sometimes also with the data that you have, it seems like it starts a little bit later. We also had that when I was driving for Red Bull a couple of times back in the past, especially I remember, I think 2021 Austria, and we were thinking it would start later. Then we went out a little bit too late, and you already see the first raindrops, and it's just done.
Is that based on communication from the driver, from what they're seeing out there, or because Aston Martin seemed to be the only team that didn't do what everyone else was doing?
That's why I said it, right? Yeah. They were the only driver, like Otis was the only driver not to really take advantage of that.
I mean, honestly, I would be surprised if it would be down to Otis. I mean, he has the input from the game. You always see this small prediction on your in-game garage screen. But most of the teams, they all work with the engineers on telemetry, and they get additional data usually from how accurate the weather, when is it gonna hit. Like it's not like in one second it's gonna hit. It's just like a prediction. But they practice at home. They work on these things together. They usually should be prepared. So I think it's more of like a team error. Like him with the team. It's not always just the team or just the driver. But I think in a situation like that, the drivers are just stressed. They need to make sure they go out in the right moment. And they are also relying a lot on the decision from the engineers. And if it goes wrong, then you could also see the head shake when he was on lap. He was not happy.
And yesterday, he was one of the first drivers to set a lap time. So
yeah.
It's an interesting thing. Thomas Ronhauer is literally just there. He has not been agreed to interview just now. However, Claire Cottingham is with Barry Brumand, and let's find out how he's feeling from that quali.
Yeah, in our very red room. I'm obviously wearing the red dress today, but it hasn't done quite as well as we wanted, I guess, for you guys. It wasn't actually why I wore red, let's be honest. It was the only dress I had. But for yourself, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, obviously not feeling great after the last night race. Was just really, I think, just didn't really go our way. We made some mistakes and as a team, and then it cost us some points. And then coming today, quali performance, I mean, it was quite weird because the lap I did should have been quite easily through, but obviously with the tows going on, we just saw it today that you can actually tow like a karting championship. We really got cut off, and you just gain like 1.5 tenths, 2 tenths for just absolutely no reason, and that really was the reason.
Okay, so the slipstream scenario throughout qualifying has had a massive effect on you guys then?
Yeah, because obviously we were not thinking you're even allowed or you can even do that. So when we just came here and then they said and teams started doing it, so it's not really ideal. But I guess because if you planned it for 2 months, you want to do that, you need to choose a different setup. to just practice it, and we were not doing it, and then we just came into the session, and we saw like a pole position was a crazy lap because of that.
Have you felt that there is a little bit more pressure on yourself after winning the Constructors' Championship last time out, that you feel that this time round, if you don't win the drivers maybe, or is it a team mentality thing, or has it just been bad luck so far?
No, I don't feel any difference from last year. Obviously, we always as a team go to the season and try to do our best, but yeah, till now it's just not going well. As we can see, but it's only 2 races. I'm just trying to recover from that, and hopefully we can just start getting a little bit more luck and a good placement for toe.
It's only 1 race so far. We've still got another race to go. And we saw yesterday that there was such drama within the race, and people were out of position, and that everything can be fought for in a sim race.
Yeah, obviously, still, but I mean, starting P16 for China is not really the best place, but still I'm just going to go out, do my best. Hopefully we can grab some points, and then we should be fine for Bahrain.
Exactly. There's still Bahrain to go. We've got another qualifying session, of course, and then another race today, and also another race tomorrow. So still plenty of time to get those points on the board.
Yeah, obviously for tomorrow with the slipstream thing, we just need to nail the slipstream, and whoever nail it, I guess it's on pole.
Okay. Well, thank you for speaking to us, and good luck for the race.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to Claire for catching up with Barry there. That old saying, fail to prepare, prepare to fail. But that just doesn't seem to be the case. Months of preparation coming into this, and moments like that happen. Marcel, talk us through, in terms of a split screen maybe with 2 drivers, and what was happening out there.
Yeah, so we actually prepared a lap between Otis, who was too late and was already in the rain, compared to Jarno, who was in the train. So on the right we have Jarno with a P3 performance, and you can see the car ahead. He left quite a nice gap compared to what we saw from his teammate, for example, but actually he's closing in already. Whilst Otis, he doesn't have any sort of slipstream. You can see he's fighting the wheel, he doesn't get the traction down. There's already such a big gap. Jarno's already past the Pirelli board, whilst Otis is just trying to navigate and stay on track. Now into sector 2, you can also see the wheel flick again in the hairpins. Usually slow speed sections, you will see that a lot, that the drivers are just having to throw in the wheel. Then also super bumpy, left, right, in the middle. You can see the car bottoming out a little bit for Jarno there. Need to be careful of the curbs on the inside. As well there, it's quite tricky to get the power down, but they are both doing a great job. Jarno obviously has way more grip in the dry conditions. So for Otis, it was already raining. Even though it's looking dry, it's not dry anymore. There's already raindrops falling, and it's impossible to just put on a competitive lap time. And now you will see Jarno actually close in with the slipstream. This is, I'm not a fan of it. I don't know about you guys, but I think we had it in the past. Drivers were complaining because we had back then that teams were sorting out a slipstream with each other. Now we have this situation. I want to see the best drivers in the world going flat out without any sort of stuff like that, where you need to maybe be lucky that the car ahead is getting a good lap and you're getting a good tow. I just want them to push like crazy, and the best driver should be in pole without any sort of impact from these kind of things that in the end you can't control. You pick a driver, you need to hope if he doesn't perform, then it's not your fault, but you had to go for it, and then your lap is also ruined, which we saw with Freddie.
Yeah, I agree. I want to see a qualifying session where it isn't that element of luck. I think it's obviously great to have a jumbled up grid in some ways. Having a Zildjian on pole, that creates a story, but you kind of want that story because he's set a lap time that on an equal footing to everybody else. Of course, slipstream does exist in Formula One, like in real life, but not to that extent. So I do wonder, as we move on through this championship, whether we will continue to see this and whether any changes will be made.
It'd be interesting to see whether they intervene on it, because if not, it's something that everyone's going to have to adapt to. And Zildjian adapted best.
And some teams might not have been focusing on that because of their feelings towards it.
Well, they weren't, clearly, because there were some drivers out there on their own and just towing along someone from behind.
Intriguing stuff. Okay, let's focus on the track then. Let's not talk about the slipstream anymore.
We can still talk about it, because mid-session I actually ran to the stewards and I was like, we need to change that. I don't like what I'm seeing.
They're going to regret introducing themselves to Marcel.
Stewards, this is Marcel. He's your new bestie. Let's talk about the Shanghai International Circuit track.
Obviously, it's a legendary racetrack, which we've seen in Formula One many times.
4 podiums for you, I believe, as well, Marcel. I'll say it before you do.
Yeah, that's why he called it legendary.
No, I like it a lot. It's a very fun track and also good for racing. Turn 1, obviously, we have the bumps in this section. It can be tricky to line up a move for the end of Sector 1. It still is a good overtaking opportunity right there in Turn 6. But usually the drivers are waiting because the longest straight is happening in Sector 3 after this little, we call it snail corner. And depending on who's behind, I think if it would be Freddy, he would just lift and lift and lift this whole way down here and not go for a move. But hopefully we will see some action, and already earlier than when the pit stops are actually happening. Then we have the hairpin. Good overtaking opportunity. Maybe we will see drivers go still side by side until turn 16. And then maybe if they still keep it side by side, we can see a battle all the way back to turn 1. Or if they head quickly into the pit lane like Danny Beresney to go for an undercut, maybe they can win the race like that.
Marcel, what's the key to being quick around here? It suited your driving style. Why was it such a good circuit for you?
I mean, I usually liked like medium downforce tracks, but with a lot of high speed. Like the setups were usually set up to be quite low downforce, like on Silverstone or this track. You don't want too much downforce because of these super long straights. So you kind of need to balance it out with the car. You need low aerodynamics, whilst you still need to make sure you're not losing too much time in especially turn 1, 2, 3, and also the S section, because the traction zones there, they are not easy. And if you're just getting the balance a little bit wrong, maybe it's fast for overtaking, but in qualifying you could suffer a little bit. In the end, it didn't matter too much, because if you didn't get a slipstream, then you can have as little wings as you want, you're still going to lose time.
You mentioned about setups. We saw a little bit of a difference in setups in Australia. I think we could see there were some drivers faster in some sectors. Do you see a bigger discrepancy coming into a track like this in terms of the setups, and perhaps some going for much quicker down the straight, but pain in the corners?
Yeah, definitely. There's a huge difference between teams on a track like this, because, like I said, some drivers like me back in the past, I preferred the setup that was super quick on the straight. And maybe I suffered a little bit in the corners, but I also heard from a couple of the drivers that especially Aston Martin, they're driving with maximum wings everywhere. You could see that actually yesterday, Otis was super, super close to Freddy all the time, but he couldn't really get the move done, because Freddy had way more top speed, whilst Otis probably is running more downforce. And if we see something like this again, maybe he's super close out of the snail corner in turn 13, but then he's maybe not close enough at the end of the straight.
We're just going to see some epic moves from Lawrence around the outside of some corner.
That would be great to see,
intriguing stuff, and it sets itself up beautifully for 3 o'clock Central Eastern Time. Let's have a look at the starting grid, as now all the drivers have vacated the studio behind us. The Haas guys last to leave. So Josh Ido starts right at the back in 20th. Lucas Blakely, the champion 2 seasons ago, in 19th. So that locks out your back row. Then Duncan Hoffland coming in to this rookie, in for Fab Donoso next to Alvaro Carreton in 18th. Further up, we heard from earlier on Barry Brumund in 16th, and then a shock, 15th. Good start for Freddie Rasmussen. Not expecting that. Istvan Pukki, what a race yesterday for him in 14th. And Nicolas Longuet in 13th. And moving on up, Joni Tormala, the experienced driver there, in 12th. And Alfie Butcher in 11th, missing out on Q3 by 200ths of a second. Tom Manley doing very well. What a day it was for the RBs. And Otis Lawrence in 9th, not able to get a lap done in the dry. Tamas Gal, great start for him, 8th. Danny Beresney in 7th. And then Joris last to leave here for the Haas guys in 6th. Ismail Fassi, your winner yesterday, his maiden win. Around Melbourne, Brendan Lee, who's actually technically the only driver still in the studio. I think he's savouring every single moment. Jarno will start in 3rd, a return to form for quali for him.
He's
and
been
the front
trying
row.
to throw you off, hasn't he?
He has a little bit.
Last 5 minutes.
There's been some interesting antics from him. Thomas Ronna starts in P2, and Ulas Ozdirorum in P1. What a start for him, his maiden pole. And there we are. We're set up perfectly. We've discussed all the big talking points. What are you going to do between now and 3 o'clock when we'll be back for Central Eastern Time?
I'm going to limber up for another epic, because apparently all we get is epic sessions this year at F1 Sim Racing.
The dry ones as well, mate.
Alex James, Matt Gallagher, Marcel Kiefer, and to you guys, we'll see you back here at 1500. Can't wait for it.